Yeah, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
My name is Jesse Grossinger. I'm with the Fremont County Association of Governments as their business manager. I help Tim Nichols a lot. And I'm just going to use my time to finish off what he wrote. That is not be out of where are we at? 41. FCAG is not out of control because local governments are willing to sit at the same table and discuss regional problems. FCAG is not out of control because public safety, ambulance service, commercial air service, and public transportation do not stop at city limits. FCAG is not out of control because elected representatives, staff, advisory committees, and community stakeholders are willing to ask difficult questions about how Fremont County sustains essential services into the future. This is not being out of control. That is regional governments functioning as intended. If collaborative discussion is viewed as a threat simply because it is not aligned with particular narrative that does not make FCAG out of control, it means the role and purpose of FCAG are being misunderstood and misrepresented. Disagreeing with the proposal is fair. Voting against the proposal is fair. Asking difficult questions is fair. Public scrutiny is fair. But labeling regional cooperation as out of control ignores the very reason the organization was created in the first place. FCAG exists to bring communities together before challenges become crisis. It exists to help members of governments evaluate complex issues. It exists to support informed decision-making. It exists to provide a structure where local governments can collaborate without community being forced to duplicate the same administrative work on its own. That is not loss of control. That is local control working together. It is also important to clarify the role of advisory committees. Advisory committees do not impose taxes. Advisory committees do not have final authority over elected bodies. Advisory committees review information, evaluate options, and provide recommendations. Those recommendations then go to the governing bodies that actually hold authority. This council holds authority. The county commission holds authority. Other city and town councils hold authority. The voters hold the ultimate authority on any ballot question placed before them. FCAG holds only the authority that its members' governments lawfully grant to it. Its ability to act depends on the support, non-support, direction, and participation of the governing bodies that create it and continue to participate in it. In simple words, FCAG is not the authority above the council. FCAG is the table at which the authorities gather.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Mayor and Council, my name is Brian Fable, Executive Director of the Lander Chamber of Commerce. I am here tonight on behalf of the Lander Chamber of Commerce to bring forward an issue that we've been hearing a lot about from members of the business community. At its core, this is a narrow question. Should business owners who own property in Lander operate a business here, pay taxes here, and are directly affected by city decisions have some path to representation in municipal elections, even if they live just outside city limits? The issue was brought to the chamber by multiple business owners in this exact position. They own a business, they own property, all within the city limits of Lander. They generate sales and property tax and are directly affected by city decisions that shape the local business climate. But because they live just outside city limits, they do not have a vote or a voice. Several have described the issue as taxation without representation. This conversation did not start from scratch. A few years ago, several local leaders began working to understand how many business owners might fit in this category. I know some of them have talked with people in this room. The chamber received word of the initial work. We received it, built upon it, and we've now identified and confirmed 40 individuals who appear to meet these preliminary criteria. They own a business, they own property within city limits, and they pay into city sales tax and property tax, but live just outside city limits. We've found through our work that there are another 25 or so are possibly meeting these criteria. And we've done initial estimates that there's likely up to 125 individuals that could meet this criteria. We've also been in discussion about how this concept with Councilwoman Cox and received her encouragement to bring this forward here tonight. Based on that work, we believe that this issue deserves formal review and consideration by the city lander. We're asking the council to place this topic on a future agenda to evaluate the proper mechanism, eligibility criteria, and administrative process for council consideration. We're not asking council to adopt final language tonight, but we are asking council to recognize that this issue deserves a fair, public, and orderly review. As always, I'm available for questions. 3 minutes doesn't quite provide enough time to talk about it in depth, so please reach out for additional information, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I had 2 seconds left on my timer. So well done. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is mayor and council updates. And council, I would ask you, I would imagine you had questions from constituents and seen social media about what's happening with fireworks and fire bans. That's why Mr. Johnson is here. He will address that in staff update. So I'd ask you to hold comments, questions about that until he has an opportunity to address that then. So starting with that though, Councilmember Cassidy.
Nothing this time, Mayor.
I just follow up with what Brian Fable said. We have been discussing this and want to continue the discussion and not let it just die on the table, meaning there's some value to it. So I appreciate you coming forth. And aside from that, I don't have any update from Lita either.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a short update for me as well, given that it's been a week for our liaison committees to have met since our last update. The tree board does have some open positions. Well, not open, but some folks who are some terms, thank you, that expire in July. And so I think applications are open and are welcomed. And Mayor, if I'm correct, you'll make appointments that will authorize at the first July meeting. So thank you. So if people are excited to or know of others who want to serve on the tree board and help advise us around our public and private canopy in town, please send them over to the application form on the city website, or you can email me directly and I'll get that to you as well. So thanks to those who are already serving and everybody who's interested in joining into the collaborative effort there.
Yep,
Thanks,
thank you. Councilmember Hahn.
I got nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, a few things for you. One so I'm sorry, I can't offer a lot of detail at this point. It literally started a conversation this morning about doing something on July 8th, which is the actual date of the reading of the Declaration of Independence. So conversation has started about trying to do something festive for that and do a reading of the Declaration of Independence. So we don't have a place for that yet, but our hope is to do that at noon. So folks can join on their lunch break and either bring lunch or maybe we can have food trucks available. But think about that Wednesday, July 8th for that celebration, which would be great. I attended the Joint Appropriations Committee meeting yesterday, and one of the things that is being discussed, it's a draft form, it's not ready for legislation, is the return of the county consensus funding project, which I think the last time that happened was about 10 years ago. So right now, in consideration is $100 million being allocated among all of the counties, and the way it would work is the county commission and the majority of participating municipalities would have to agree on the projects and then work collaboratively on that. So stay tuned for that. We'll certainly look at, and this would be restricted to some infrastructure, things like sewer, water, those kinds of things. It did have some fairly narrow use for that. But as we well know, any funding would be beneficial to us. We are in need of that. So that's important. Along those lines, as part of the conversation about what is the broader funding need in the community, WAM is doing a survey of municipalities for what are their water specific needs. 31 communities have responded to date, and the total dollar amount that they have stated is a staggering 24.5 billion with a B dollars. Sorry, $26.5 billion needed in water programs alone. And an estimated in terms of more immediate needs is 1.7 billion. So it's pretty staggering to look at those dollar amounts for that. Otherwise, have been continuing having conversations both with a school administration and various stakeholders about the pool and the challenges we face and possible ways forward for that. So we'll continue to try to do the best we can. The city's trying to find ways to assist the admin from how can the $25,000 best be used? We had hoped to get more specific information. I know council was interested about can that increase recreation time or go towards scholarship funding, et cetera. Waiting to get more specifics from the school about if that's possible and how that would be possible. But we're looking at, any ways that we can be able to help them. We, of course, are willing to do that. So among other things on my end, continuing to look for grant opportunities as well as trying to find out from other municipalities and schools, how do you manage your pools? What allowed you to fund it, build it in the first place? How do you manage it? Those kinds of things. The more information we can get, the better. I realize every community is different, but that we can learn from all of those communities for that. I also want to put a rumor to rest that I heard last night. Oh, if only this were true. Well, part of it were true, but I heard that the rumor apparently circulating that Dan Starks offered to buy land for the city of Riverton to build a rec center, and we turned it down. I assure you, neither of those things happened. But that apparently has taken hold in social media. That I can emphatically state that is not true. So that's on my end. So with that, we'll move to the staff reports. And Chris, can we have you come up first? Because I know folks have a lot of questions about what's happening there.
Thanks, Mayor and Council.
Can you lean forward a little more so it
better?
picks up better? Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I know the fire risk within the city is significantly different than that of the county. Most residential properties within the city have maintained and irrigated lawns, landscape yards, and developed neighborhoods rather than large areas of dry, open vegetation. While there are areas of concern within the city, these risks can be mitigated through responsible property maintenance and safe firework practices. The primary areas that present elevated fire concerns are open fields, river bottom areas, and locations where their combustible debris has accumulated beneath porches, decks, and other structures. These specific hazards can be addressed through public education and proactive property maintenance rather than a complete ban on fireworks. Property owners play a critical role in reducing the fire risk. Homeowners should be encouraged to remove combustible debris and materials from beneath porches and decks, keep vegetation around homes trimmed and maintained, keep their lawns watered and landscaped regularly during dry periods, create and maintain defensible space around your structures. In addition, residents using fireworks should follow the basic fire safety measures, including having a charged garden hose ready and available during firework use, keep a fire extinguisher nearby if available, super fireworks at all times, and immediately extinguish any smoldering materials. Also call 911 immediately if a fire starts and cannot be controlled quickly and safely. Early notification allows emergency responders to contain incidents before they become a larger emergency. So rather than implementing a complete ban, I encourage the council to focus on public education, property maintenance, and responsible firework use. These measures can be significantly reduced fire risk while still allowing residents to celebrate Independence Day responsibility. So do you guys have any questions or anything for me?
So I think Chief, if you want to chime in, because we've also had conversations about this, your perspective, and then I'll share, relay what Chief Sywick also conveyed.
Mayor, Council, I think my perspective is down the same line as Chris's as far as those guys are better skilled at that than me. I'm in law enforcement, not fire. But my belief is if they feel like they can control it within the city limits because they know where it is and we have identified control of it, that it's safe. From a police department perspective, I don't see a problem with it because it's within our boundaries. We have green grass. People take care of their property as long as they're respectful. I don't see that it's problematic from a police department point of view.
Okay, thank you for that. And likewise, in my conversation with Chief Sywick this morning, he likewise reiterated that the fuel load is very, very different within city limits than outside in the county. And so between that and also he's been staying in touch with Lance and Shane about the water supply. The last time we had a restriction on fireworks within city limits, it was partly because of dry conditions, but also because we had drained a tank fighting the community center fire. And right now we have sufficient water supply. So again, unless council feels otherwise about it, I think we are okay to continue with fireworks within city limits for that. So I want to kind of look to council about, are we okay with this or not, basically?
Just a couple of questions. The total roster, for lack of a better word, for the fire department, how many are there? And then how many do we actually have?
Oh, so
What's our manning versus what's our total allowable?
yeah, so I don't have the numbers, but that was a question I asked Chief Sywick about. Are you comfortable with coverage for city bound? And he was, yes, he felt comfortable with being able to manage that.
So the recent fire, maybe 6 weeks ago, that we had at the sawmill near the town, near the middle school. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Could we handle 2 of those simultaneously?
So with mutual aid agreements that we have in place, we can, yeah.
But the mutual aid requires them to be available and not fighting another fire on the 4th, right?
Correct.
Another kind of concern is, I appreciate everything that you said there. And one of the things that you said was, to paraphrase it, proactive communication to the community, right? We have 11 days to do that. Kind of short notice. There's overgrown empty lots in town that perhaps have not been addressed by the city to have those owners maintain those lots that are full of fuel. So we have 11 days to identify the lots that are full of fuel, communicate to the owner, and have them action that. Have we given ourselves enough time to do that, to mitigate those risks? You know, in cases in which we can mitigate a risk, have we given ourselves the right amount of time to be able to do so? You know, because it sounds like a large part of our risk management and risk mitigation is communication to the public, but we haven't given ourselves time to do that effectively, perhaps.
There has been communication already in preparation for the 4th that started, and these are typically annual reminders to folks of Lander is known for its fireworks. Take care of your property. So I believe that word is available to the public, and we can continue to make that very public.
Have notices gone out to people to maintain their property? I don't know that they have they?
Yeah, we've sent out some media releases on it.
If I can add, so we've taken 5, just off the cuff, 5 complaints this year about overgrown lawns. Property was receptive and had it mowed within 24 hours. That's something that our CSO does on a very regular basis to stay on top of it. I guess if I could add one thing and to not as gently as possibly negative, this is going to be absolutely impossible for the police department to enforce, if you want to know the truth. People are going to do it anyways. They've done it for years and years and years. So my mindset is, if we allow it within the city, we already know where it is and where it's going to happen. If we choose not to allow it, they're still going to do it. And there's going to be more actions to try and hide it and do it in places that they shouldn't be doing it, which is more problematic to me.
I think my closing comment is on it really is that this is now 2 weeks in a row of what feels like very short fused efforts, 11 days to communicate, to make sure that we, I feel like we could have maybe planned out earlier, discussed these earlier, have more of a proactive communication plan, perhaps, if that's a large part of our risk mitigation. We're very, very close to the timeline of execution of this activity, and it would be really nice if we had maybe pushed that further left on the calendar. So maybe we will next year, but that's my observations on it.
Thank you. Other comments from council?
Yeah, Mayor, I think I just added some specificity to what's been said already. So the press release went out yesterday asking and detailing, thank you, Mr. Johnson, a great deal of the mitigation we would ask our homeowners to proactively take. And I appreciate that so much. I think that earlier is also like off better for outreach. And if we can just re-up this, in a variety of fashions, perhaps get on a local radio show, post this back to Facebook a couple times. I don't know, Chief Waff, it's possible for our code enforcement officer he might have an idea of somewhere where these lots are that just by habit or annual review, he could go back out and encourage those landowners. So I do believe a lot of people do this responsibly. And I know that it only takes one, irresponsible spark in action. So I think the folks who are doing it responsibly are mitigating and for the information we've gotten out. My one question, Mayor, Mr. Johnson, is, some of these things we can't plan for. If we had a forecast for a high wind event, often those don't occur. We don't get those forecasts for a couple days in advance, right? They're pretty erratic. Would that change our direction? And would we need to reconvene, Mayor, for an emergency meeting if in the advance of a high wind event, which we've seen this year several times, right? We do actually want to try to ban them, knowing that enforcement is difficult. How would that change our direction here?
So I would say, looking at the forecast like a couple days before, I think if it does warrant it, then we can revisit it.
Okay.
But looking at the extended forecast, it looks like it's supposed to be low 90s, about mid-teens for the RH, and no winds.
Okay.
Like only about 60-mile-an-hour gusts. That's about it. So I would be comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your expertise on this.
Yeah, great points to call out. And I think in general, a reminder to our public, please do all the things responsibly. We've seen all kinds of furor in Sheridan about chairs going out for the parade proactively and having to have ordinances created. We are asking folks, please do things right so we don't have to create those ordinances. We're asking the floats, please don't throw from the float to keep kids away from the wheels. We're asking you to have folks on either side being able to toss candy. Please be respectful about when and where you place chairs. Please be respectful with behavior during the parade. For me personally, I'm counting on our residents and visitors behaving responsibly so that the need for ordinances isn't created. And I think that's an important part to keep reiterating. All the things we do on the 4th are a privilege, not a right. And so let's all do our best to keep those things happening.
Mayor,
So-
if I may,
Yes.
I'd like to address a couple of the council concerns. It doesn't always look like it from the outside, but I can affirm that the code enforcement officer has called me to get contact information for landowners to cut their weeds back. So I know that that is happening on a proactive basis. And the press release was scheduled to go out. Then we heard the county was doing a fire ban. We held the press release and put out the press release for Chris in lieu of. Now that we know what the council's wishes are, that press release will click send tomorrow and we'll start doing that. So a lot of these things are iterative in process, and I just wanted to affirm that we are doing a lot of those things.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for being here.
Thank
Much
you, guys.
appreciated. Okay, Chief Wah, we'll move to you.
I'll echo Councilwoman Stubble. It's only been a week. Busy. I mean, we're planning for the 4th of July. There's lots of work being done, lots of safety planning. I'm going to attend the select committee on school finance recalibration tomorrow, but we're charging forward. Summer's here. I don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions.
Questions for the chief? Okay. Hunter, thanks for being here in lieu of Lance.
My pleasure. Yeah, we are madly getting rodeo grounds ready, getting Lincoln Street buttoned up, getting town curbs painted, getting ready for all of the events that are coming to Lander here in the near future. So if there are any questions with that, we're massively moving all departments on full go right now, but any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Two things for you. One, I went up to the rodeo grounds to be able to see the fence work happening, and that's awesome. Thanks for getting that happening and making sure the Indian relays can be done in a better fashion. I know that was a bit of a rush to do, but I think will be very appreciated by all in there. And also, thanks to the parks crew in being able to respond so nimbly to plant the tree in honor of Linda Barton when the extra tree happened. I connected folks, and the next thing I knew, the tree's planted. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. Comments for Hunter, Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you remind us about curb painting, please? That's an annual activity, usually in the spring. Give us a little more detail about like what spots you target first and how this goes.
Sure. They try to catch the area around Main Street primarily, so tourists know left turn, right lanes, where not to park, not to park. They don't tend to drift too far off of the Lincoln Street, Garfield Street kind of beltway, but that's Mark and his crew who are out just kind of getting what they thought were the high traffic areas and getting those ones buttoned up.
Got it. And is it correct that prior to school starting, so late summer, we'll do the pedestrian crossings by schools and the Sharos for bike paths and those things? That's an annual repainting too?
Yeah, this year we'll see too some thermoplastic melted down crosswalks that will last more permanently, that the motor graders won't grade up when they plow snow. So we got funding for 8 of those to get installed, primarily around the middle school area, trying to catch some of those safer routes to schools in that area over there.
Great. That's cool progress. Thank you. Because it seems like some of those do degrade pretty quickly over the year.
Yeah, it's an experiment for us. It's a little more expensive up front than paint is, but it should last in the long term, be more cost effective, and should last brighter, wider for longer.
Okay, awesome. Glad to hear
The
it.
flashing lights definitely does a better job at catching driver attention. You brought up the Sharrows though, and that's something that was funded by the Lander Cycling Club.
Okay.
And I don't know what plans are, but I can ask about ability to repaint those.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else for Lance? Okay. Oh, excuse me. Regine.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you guys talked about Sharrows. That was actually a YO Path volunteer
sorry.
group.
Pathway.
And we bought the paint, and volunteers got up at 4 a.m. and did that painting for weeks on end. We knew it would only last 1 or 2 years. Right now, we don't have a program to repeat that. So just to let you know.
Okay. Thanks.
I don't have anything else unless you guys have questions for me.
Any questions? Okay. Christy, on to you.
Hi. I don't have a lot from last week. I think last time we talked about meter and looking at investment strategies, and we'll bring back a proposal to you. We also were doing some internal control things to make it more just a tighter policy and more transparent. And in doing so, we'll be adding like Kevin Kulo to the signature plate as well for doing wire transfers and so forth, so that we have a dual authorization process on that. I think I've also been working with Jake with Airtable on doing a dual authorization on some of the approvers would go directly to the approval status, and then it was just Kevin and I looking at it before on our procurements. And we're just looking at, I think that's kind of a trend you're seeing in all city governments, is just finding ways where you can tighten the policies and look at the procedures. And I think even on WAMCAT, I saw that kind of go out today. Everybody was sharing each other's policies and procedures on how they do those things. So we're starting to look at those things. I did meet with Brian from Summit. We talked a little bit about the 2 things that you'll see on the agenda later. One was the TAD, and I said, do we need a resolution? Because when I was reading in the governmental accounting policies, it basically said we did. So he said, yes, it needed to be a resolution that you guys approved to set up those accounts, and that it that you guys approve the fund and you approve that I can set up the accounts. Once we do that, then we have some money we can put in the bank and start figuring out our next, how we're going to administer that and come back to you guys with that. Let me think, what else did I have? Oh, the other thing was the audit engagement. I think last year you guys had signed it a while before and they did preliminary testing in May. I was like, are you doing our our audit? And he said yes. So they got us our audit engagement and it's there for you guys to approve to sign today. And then once that's signed, we will set up a time to do the preliminary audit testing and then also set up an audit schedule of everything to move forward. So I can report back on that later. Other than that, I'm working on closing a few grants out, fiscal year end planning, working on budget rollout, making sure, working with Cassell and Jake today to make sure our air table and our purchasing program and also Cassell, all the stuff to roll the budget and actual stuff to roll into the new year is all lined out. A lot of planning.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Any questions for
any
Christy?
questions?
Okay, Adam, your turn to tell us you don't have anything to say.
I don't have anything I can share tonight unless somebody has questions for me.
Any questions for our attorney? Okay, on to you, Rochelle.
I would just like to let the council know that we received an application for a new restaurant liquor license from, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it's the new Mediterranean restaurant that's
Ella's.
in the Ella's, right? Their corporate name starts with a D. So that will be on the July 14th agenda for council to review and consider. Additionally, sometime in July or August, we're working on the advertisement. We just received an application to transfer the Catholic College retail license to Solstice 23. So that will be coming up as well. Okay, any questions about those?
Any questions about that or anything else for Rochelle?
Okay.
Mayor,
Yep.
please finish your thought.
I know Council Member Stubble, you had requested that we let the council know when the Wind River Pizza license became operational. It's not operational yet. So we'll continue to keep you in the loop on that.
Great, appreciate that. Thank you. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Also, thanks, Clerk Fontaine. Has the final version of the Title II ordinance gone out to the liquor license holders?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to Section 6, our new business action items. First up is approve Resolution 1387 amended. This is what we saw last week, amending Resolution 1358 fees and utility rates for water and wastewater service, July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2027. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Cassidy. So there was a couple of things in here about the snowbird rates. So Regine, can we give you the mic to give us the clarification?
Thank you, Mayor. So basically, we went to the water clerk and said, okay, this is new, this passed, we've enacted it. And she did some calculations and she said that raise for the snowbirds was, she thought, too much. It would have raised their monthly snowbird rate $26.32 per month. And then during that process, we found out that is because when she was trained, she was incorrectly trained on how to calculate snowbird rates. So we're trying to get 2 years, take 2 years to bring them up to the standard snowbird rate that should have been being calculated over those years. Instead of that $26.32 in 1 year, we're trying to spread that out over 2 years. So if they had, my calculations show they would have about a $13 a month raise this year. And then next year, depending on how much we vote in for percentage increases, it will be a very similar increase next year. On the third year, it would be, they would only realize the 7 or 9 or whatever percentage we decide to do for water rates. So long story short, it was a operational error when the water clerk was trained, and we're trying to bring it back up, corrected it, but we're giving people 2 years to get up to that rate rather than having one stark $26 increase a month. Okay? Then, because you let an engineer do some typing, I made a typo in the amended version. And if this passes, I would like you to amend section 3B, where it says snowbird rate for water service shall be. I would like that changed to $20.25 a month instead of $40.49.
I think it's 25.
$20.25 in lieu of
Okay.
$40.49. That's where we were doing the 1-year calculation, 2-year calculations. So I believe it should read, snowbird rate for water service shall be $20.25 per month, so long as the water meter registers 0 water usage. That's section 3B.
Okay, I'm asking because my notes for the amendment and the amended copy I've got are 25.05 on section 3B. Yeah, that's the one that's way off. Yeah. When I
that was
saw
the-
that on Friday, like, oh, this is not correct.
That was
Typos
the, oh,
happen.
you are correct, $25.05.
Okay.
Okay.
So we would, and then also on that is added, which I do not believe was on our previous one, is section 5B, noting that snowbird rate for sewer service shall not be discounted. That is also an update.
And that was the operational error we were making in
Yeah.
the past.
So it entertain an amendment.
Do you have one question?
Yes, please.
Regine, you said that we would pull forward that $13 across 2 years? Sorry, 26 across.
Yes, so that $26, this year it would have been $26.13, the way we had it written with the 20% discount as intended. Because of the calculation errors over the last 3 years, the mayor and the water clerk suggested that we spread that out over 2 years. So this year, if we use $25.05, they will have a monthly difference of $13.32. And then next year it will be a very similar rate.
I think this is quite uncommon, right? What we're talking about doing, but just, I'm very curious, how do we methodically keep account of this wanting to spread it across 2 years? Does somebody just, keep a hold of that in their mind until next year? I mean, do you sticky note it on the wall? I mean, how do we make sure that, that we don't
Follow through.
accidentally
Right.
overlook it?
So different staff use different methods, right? I just put it right in my calendar for next year.
Okay.
The treasurer and the clerk use Airtable, which is also a calendaring system.
Okay.
And so then I can also go in and create resolution for next year tomorrow.
Like a
so
draft.
that we have it
Yeah.
in there.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for we have multiple ways that it'll be tracked for that. So.
Mayor. So if I may, Assistant Mayor, then you know me, I kind of want to repeat it back and make sure I'm tracking well enough. So we have been undercharging our snowbirds because of clerical errors for 3 years. Now to get them up to the same rate increases, to be equitable in the rate increases that we've been doing across other water users, we are bringing them up this year to 25.05. That's a $13 a month increase difference. That'll be the same for next year, and then they would be aligned with whatever percentage, 7 or 9, that we do in following years.
That was perfect.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very
I
much.
will let you know that this affects less than 30 of
That's what I
our
was gonna say.
accounts. We have more snowbirds than that, but a lot of them don't use this because they want water at their house for
Yeah.
their caretaker or whatever reason. So this affects less than 30 accounts.
Okay, great. And thank you, Mayor. At first my reaction was, wow, if we're making a sizable bump, then is there enough, is it feasible to do a direct outreach, to send a letter explaining what's happened?
Yes.
But and that's not a bad practice, but $13.
Intended.
Okay, great. $13 a month compared to, I think for our user, I'll say more normal, more standard water users, we're seeing an $8 a month increase. So that's not a dramatic, it's not like $50, $25. So I'm less inclined, but it doesn't hurt to do a little extra outreach if we could send a direct letter
Yeah.
to those 30, explaining and owning that that mistake and explaining what's going to happen.
And Mayor, if I
Exactly. And
may.
that's the intent of doing that rather than the $26 jump and getting the negative feedback from folks. Being explained.
Mhm.
The good news is you had a discount for a few years. The bad news is that needs to change, but mea culpa, we'll do it in a stepped amount. So, and I trust Danielle's perspective on her interaction with the public of what kinds of things create that response versus being more amenable. So she's got a great handle on that.
Then
Okay.
Mayor, I think that I would move an amendment to section 3B, where we change the $40.49 per month to $25.05 per month.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
So moved by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Cox. We'll call for the question. Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 That amendment passes. I'd entertain an amendment for section 5B. That language is new language.
Great. And Mary, I don't believe we have to amend this because we did notice this change in this resolution. So we just approved the resolution
Did
with
we
that
have
change.
sewer
Yeah.
rate was not discounted in the previous one? I thought it was not included.
But we're not changing it in this amended resolution that's come before us tonight. So we don't have to amend it on the floor.
Correct. I'm with you. Yes. Okay. So let's call for the question as amended. Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
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 Okay. Resolution 1387 amended passes. Next up, item B, approve resolution 1391, establishing the Tourism Asset Development Special Revenue Fund for the purpose of accounting for and administering tourism asset development revenues and expenditures. Get a motion and second for this one.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy. This is what was discussed at our last meeting. Do folks have any questions? And Christy can answer them if so. Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, Councilmember Hahn, we'll start with you, please.
Yes.
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 That passes. Next is item C, authorize mayor to sign resolution 1392, a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for $1,014,392.90 in federal funding through the Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, for the Gannett Peak Phase 2 project. Could I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Regine, can you fill us in on this one? We've heard about it, but refresh our memory for it.
The reason this looks familiar is because we applied for this exact same grant in 2026, and it was not evaluated through YDOT. YDOT has new staff, and we had a new site visit, and they encouraged us to put this in one more time. What this does is it completes the ADA and Safe Routes sidewalk requirements around the Gannett Peak School. So there will be work on Sweetwater Cascade and Canyon and Paposia in addition to what they've already done. So, this grant is a great one because it is 9.51% city match. The rest is covered by YDOT and Federal Highways Administration. And it's also in our strategic plan for completing safe routes to schools.
Great. Any comments, questions about this?
Mayor, if I may.
Yep. I think
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Cox was moving for the mic.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question of clarification. We applied in 2026 or 2025?
Yes and yes.
Okay, so this one for 2026, but the previous one was 2025. And they've done some preliminary work around the areas that we're talking about. Is that also correct?
Yes, this is actually phase 2. So this will complete the original project
Okay,
that
right.
was underfunded.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hahn.
Was there any overrun on the last one, like stuff where it cost us more on top of the original? 'Cause I know it got kind of wild towards the end. They were in the sidewalks.
Yeah, and part of the thing that got wild was we were waiting for product, right? We were waiting for those tactile things, and we were waiting for the our RFB, which is the flashing beacon. But I don't remember there being very many overruns, very many. I mean, it wasn't substantial. And this one is 100% designed and ready to bid because it already has all the YDOT permissions. So we
Right.
don't expect any overruns in this one.
Perfect. Is this something we pay in full and then we get reimbursed at the end?
Yes.
That's the, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
we pay it in full and then they give us our 4.59% or whatever it is.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stubble.
Thank you, Mayor. And so you said 100% designed, Assistant Mayor, already. So which engineering firm did we work with on this? And so do we design both phases at once? So we're all set to go here.
So they were both designed at once. We
Perfect.
went back and asked for right of way for some of the people. That's why we asked for the phase two.
Right.
It is 100% design, approved by YDOT. It was HDR that did that work. And the only thing that needs to be done is we have to ask for an extension on the categorical exclusion for NEPA, because by the time they get out in the field to construct this next September, it'll be 1 month past the 5-year deadline date. So we do have to do that little piece of engineering. The rest is all designed and approved.
Great. And Mayor, follow up to that. So we're expecting construction in September?
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
If we are awarded, it can be, these are federal grants, so they're not awarded till October. We signed the contract about January. It would be bid in April of 27 and it would be completed in December of 27.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Awesome amount of detail. Glad to see that we have these things kind of queued up and ready to go for these funding opportunities when they arise.
Agreed. And on a philosophical level, this to me is one of the things that I think makes Lander a great place to live, where we have safe ways for kids to get to school, to play dates, et cetera. I think that's just a critical component of our community. Councilmember Hahn.
I think it's a typo, but, so I'm reading on my packet here. It says shall be completed December 31st, 2029. That should be a 7, correct?
So we gave them a schedule that would be completed in December 27. Their deadline at YDOT for TAP is 3 years. So they had us put in actually, this is their resolution template.
Okay.
Now, if it goes like some of our other projects, we don't get bidders or we have to rebid it, we would have till December of 29 to finish it. Our current schedule is December of 27. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the eagle eye. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Call for the question. Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Next is item D, approve resolution 1393, exempting blocks 1 through 4 of Main Street from the open container provisions of City Ordinance 2-2-12. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cassidy, seconded by Councilmember Cox. This is something we see on a fairly regular basis. Rochelle, can you fill us in on any details?
The International Climbers Festival, this is their art crawl that they like to do. I don't think they asked us for an open container last year. They just stayed within the buildings, but several years prior to that, it was a regular and routine request. They're looking for blocks 1 through 4 on Main Street, and you're the deciding body.
Yeah, I will note that from me reading this application compared to previous years, they're much more detailed about how they will manage things, ID checks, tips training, et cetera. My interpretation of that is they read the revised Title II and are complying with it, which I think is great. That's what we were after for it. So any comments, questions on this? Councilmember Cox.
I, of course, would like to make a comment because I think I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. What you permit, you promote. And we are going to see these probably from now until the summer's over. And what we're giving permission for, even though it's not a popular opinion, is for people to drink on the street. Walk around and drink. That's what we're giving permission for. We don't need to sugarcoat it. This isn't a business. This is Councilman Hahn, you made a good point about, businesses and being fair and those types of things last week. This isn't a business, it's an event. We're saying you can walk around Main Street and drink alcohol. That's what we're saying. And, or that's what this request is, essentially. So I want it to be clear about, what do we want in our community? You can have an art crawl without alcohol. It's actually possible. We don't. And, we just lost 2 kids to a DUI crash. It's unacceptable to me. It really is. And it's unfortunate people's lives are being lost at a rate that's far too high. Thank you.
After you, please.
I agree with you, Councilman Cox, on this matter. It would be nice to have like a heads up before this, like a little more notice instead of, and it doesn't just fall on this, it's all the other things that we're voting yes on with the alcohol stuff. We're getting like a couple weeks notice. So, and you don't know anything about it before that. So it puts you on the spot and you have to make a snap decision. Obviously things are, like you mentioned, it's unfortunate what happened in Riverton, and unfortunately it happens everywhere all the time because of that. So I agree with you, but we're in a situation here where we've already voted on things and we don't have enough time previous to cut it off at the very beginning before it starts spiraling down, because we're already here now. And it's, we've already said yes on all the other stuff. But I do agree with you fully. Thank you.
Yep. Chief, can you speak to this as one of the questions we often ask is, have there been any pattern of problems with this particular event? Because it has been a fairly regular event.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Stubble.
Mayor, I'll just echo what you pointed out, that the risk mitigation plan, the level of detail here, is very robust. And I very much appreciate that level of detail that's coming from the director on this application. We're all gonna, I think, share the same concerns about alcohol abuse and early deaths and the damage to families and individuals that incurs. But I still don't see a direct tie to an event like this from 3 to 9 p.m. As long as it's done responsibly and we have good enforcement, I can change my mind when we have evidence of this event leading to a really unfortunate, I hope it doesn't happen, circumstances. But thank you, Councilman Cox, for your very principled stand on this. I'm grateful you always bring that up, but I'll be a yes vote on this.
Yeah. Councilmember Cassidy.
I just want to zoom out just a little bit based on last week's discussion of a similar topic, and I have some questions probably perhaps for the city attorney, but maybe the clerk. So reading this packet we've seen these before, similar documents, and I was very pleased with the level of detail and the risk assessment and the efforts to mitigate those risks. And it got me thinking about a few things. And maybe first out the gate, is there anybody on the city staff who is professionally trained in risk assessment? Or is their role? I know you probably do down at the end, but I'm not asking specifically for you because it's implied that you do it. But is there anybody who their collateral duty is to conduct risk assessment that is based on professional training?
When you say risk assessment, are you talking about from a liability perspective? Because if that's the case, we do have LGLP that helps us with risk assessment.
I wouldn't say, I'm trying to make some assumptions on what your question is that from a legal perspective, do we expose ourselves to legal risk? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. So
right.
What is it that you're asking?
Sure.
Let me clarify that.
There we go. So we sponsor or we enable an activity to happen, right? So we do something in our park, and there's moving water and there's a potential for a drowning. And we are hosting that, we are supporting that, we are allowing that thing to happen. Is there anybody in the city staff who's their responsibility who has been professionally trained to do risk assessments, conducts a risk assessment in a matrix style like what we were taught in the military? And then through that process comes a number of risks, mechanisms to mitigate those risks, and then to manage the residual risks that exist. Is there anybody that's professionally trained to do that so that they can then inform maybe the city staff, the city attorney, the city council and the mayor to say, these are the risks that we are presented with in this activity. This is how we're going to mitigate them. These are residual risks. This is how we're going to mitigate those.
No.
Okay. So, and you agree that there's nobody there? So, okay. So this document really uncovered a lot of memories from being in the military, right? And I think they did an exceptional job. They did a really good job of being thorough. And it got me into asking, is there anybody on the staff that does that, who is professionally trained to do that for us? You know, and then that, of course, drove me into last week, like last Tuesday, you know, in that we are conducting an activity, and we talked about all kinds of things with that activity, but there was nobody who stood up at the mic and presented a risk assessment for our activity last Tuesday, what those risks are, how we're going to mitigate them, how we're going to manage the residual risks. Nobody's done that. And also, when we just talked about firecrackers and fire, it appears that it wasn't done there either, right? So this document was done very well. I'm very pleased with it, but it makes me very concerned, and I don't want to relitigate last week at all, but it makes me concerned that we don't have somebody, and if we could, that would be wonderful. Because if we expect anyone to fill out what is referred to as an alcohol responsibility plan, which appears to be a risk assessment to a certain degree, but we haven't done it ourselves, you know? Yes.
Madam Mayor, can I address this a little bit?
Yes, please. And then I have some thoughts as well.
So I guess I don't understand what you're asking, because the city is not bearing any of the risk. What you're doing is saying that you're allowing somebody to go and be able to drink alcohol on a city street. That's not our risk. That would be theirs. They have to carry insurance. They have to be able to take care of their stuff. We're just allowing them to be able to do specific things. So when you say a risk assessment under Wyoming statutes and under our ordinances, we don't generally have to have that kind of a risk assessment that you're asking about. That's overkill for what we're providing majority of the time. If it were our activity, then yeah, we would probably have to say, what are the risks? How are we going to address them? Do we have insurance that will cover those types of things? Does government immunity apply to this? And that's kind of what we have to go through. But when it's other people's events using our facilities, our city streets, then we're exempting the ability for them to be able to do it, but we have statutes that protect us. So when you say a risk assessment, I don't think that would necessarily be appropriate under most circumstances that you're thinking it would be.
For this one, you mean for this?
For this
Or in
particular
general?
one, in general.
Okay. And I think that I'm probably doing a poor job. I'm combining two events, right? The one we just discussed last week and this one, and I'm doing a poor job of pulling those apart because I don't want to go back into last week. But this just really triggered that. This really brought that up, is that they did a great job and the details weren't given for the other one or the firecracker, risk that we face. And there's a massive amount of this that I don't understand from a legal perspective with regards to city liabilities. And I absolutely admit that. My thoughts on it, though, are that if we are going to have an activity, that it would be helpful to understand the risks in detail, if we are like Fourth of
If
July.
the city is going to host an activity, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, two different things.
Yeah.
So a city hosted activity, which we don't have a lot of.
Right.
Mostly it's organizations that organize those activities.
Yeah.
And so that's why our risk would be more low, obviously.
Right. Yes.
But for example, like this, what we're talking about tonight, this exemption, it's not the city's.
100% agree.
Right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
in fact, I don't know what city event we would be organizing that would require the risk assessment that you would have, that you're talking about.
None?
So I wanted to jump in first, please.
Sure.
So I do risk management in a different context. And broadly speaking, when you identify a risk, you can accept that risk without any kind of mitigation strategies. You can attempt mitigation strategies, completely avoid it altogether, or contract some other entity to do that. And I think in the context of alcohol use, I would suggest that what we changed in Title II is exactly mitigation strategies, that you have to ID folks, that needs to be, they're going above and beyond with wristbands. There's a drink limit. All their servers are tips training. Like what we offered in Title II, we're basically the mitigation strategies we expect folks to do. And so, whether that's sledding on the golf course, that is, you do at your own risk. It's not the city's point to step in and say, all kids on sleds have to be wearing helmets, or you can't go in certain conditions or something like that. There is, the use of alcohol is an allowed substance. I don't mean to say that we're, encourage excessive use of it, but to me, it would be contradictory to have gone through increased requirements and suggestions in Title II, and then to tell folks, yeah, even though you're doing those things, we're not going to allow you to do this event. To me, that seems like we would be contradicting our own efforts of what we spent a long time doing. That's my take on it. So, but hang on, Councilmember Hahn was next up for this.
Yes, just a quick question. So obviously this is private organizations holding these, and I get where you're coming from. Who's responsible for the 4th of July? Because we're putting on that event as a city.
Not a city-sponsored event.
Nope.
It's not a city. I'm just asking, like, who would be, I get where you're coming from on your, I understand what he's saying, like, who's.
Oh, I get what he's saying too.
Yeah.
Besides the people doing, the drinking or whatever, who would be responsible other than that? Just them, the public themselves?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. Yeah, I was trying to put it together. Thank you.
Yeah. And the folks organizing a parade have their liability insurance in order to have a parade on Main Street. But yeah, it's individuals for that. Yep. Thank you. Good questions.
I just want to make
Councilmember
one
Cox.
comment about the Title II. This is very different because it's open container. It's that we're allowing public drinking on our streets. And that our businesses are doing a fantastic job. This event does a fantastic job, which I've attended multiple times as a vendor. The control between First Street and Fourth Street, they are not in control of that, of what people are doing. Yes, they are when they're handing their, checking their wristband, which I appreciate that. I totally appreciate it. I just think we have a very casual approach to what we're allowing in our city sometimes. And we do this, we've done it forever, and I have voted yes in the past. But I'm taking a hard stand on, I don't think we need to be drinking in open container. I don't think they can drink at the park at their event. They can still sell their alcohol and they can hang out in their parking lot. That's allowable without having to have an open container. So I just think that it's my stance of enough of promoting this type of drinking in our community. That's it. It's not Title II. It's completely separate.
Madam Mayor, I would also like to say, in connection with this open container request, they also requested a malt beverage permit. That will most likely be granted given the parameters that staff has had in the past. And like last year, I'm almost positive they did not ask for the open container piece, but they drank in their buildings. If this council wants to change how malt beverages or catering permits are issued, happy to know that. And I also agree with you, Councilmember Hahn. Our application says, please do it within 30 days. Very rarely do we get them within the 30 days, and we just put them on because there they are. But we're happy to enforce that 30-day limitation if that is what we're directed to do.
Yeah. Any other discussion points? We ready for a vote?
This wasn't received within the required time?
I believe we received it on the 12th, and it wasn't in time for it to be on the 16th. So that is when I believe we received it. I think that's what the date on the application said.
June 8th was
June
the
8th.
date.
Yeah.
So it was a month
I found out
ahead
about
of
it
the
on the
event.
Yeah, perhaps, Mayor, the solution there is, this is not a case where the applicant has been outside of the 30 days. It's where our review and our meeting. So that it's on us. Perhaps we want it earlier, not on, I don't want us to sound like this applicant was late here. We need to bump us back by 60 days if we want to have 30 days for our own consideration and give them 30 days still to apply.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, call for the question, starting with you, Councilmember Han.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Actually, yet again, a tie. I am a yes, so this passes. And before moving on, council, thank you again for very thoughtful conversation, different points of view. I think that gives us great strength in how we conduct the business of Lander. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Item E, approve payment to Juvenile Justice Services of Fremont County in the amount of $35,000 pursuant to Juvenile Justice Services of Fremont County Agreement dated July 1, 2026. Get a motion and a second, please.
So moved?
Second.
We had a motion by Councilmember Cox, a second by Councilmember Stubble. So this is what we agreed to on in our budget. Rochelle, anything else to cover for this?
This payment will be for the current fiscal year, not for
Correct.
the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
In conversations with the juvenile justice program to get them on the calendar for the next request, which you'll see them July 14th to do their report and probably bring forward this same type of contract. It came to light that we had not made payment for the one we entered into last
So
year.
is this actually the agreement dated July 1, 2025, I think, not 2026?
Correct.
So that's,
So we're paying for 25, 26 services. And they did get it back to us signed in a timely fashion. That has been a problem in the past.
yeah. So that was already authorized in the budget, just never written to them. The check not provided to them. Any questions about this? Okay, call for the question. Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes. Item F, approve payment to the Lander Community Foundation Challenge for Charities in the following amounts: $1,000 for fireworks, $500 for Almost Home, $1,000 for the Care and Share Food Bank, and $500 for the First Stop Help Center from the Mayor's Discretionary Fund. Can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved?
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. This one's a little different than how things happen in the past. Again, we're trying to be more transparent that everything that obligates funds from the city, even though the discretionary fund, comes before council for that. So, and given the funding window for the Challenge for Charities matching funds ends on July 10th, that's why it's on today's agenda for that. So any comments, questions about this one?
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Councilmember Stubble, then Councilmember Cox.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward with this degree of explicit detail, because we've had, I believe, at least 2 years now of mayor's discretionary funds going into the budget at the level of $5,000. And it was never brought to us in this fashion before about where that money would be directed. So thank you for that. Is this fiscal year 25-26 discretionary fund?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Councilmember Cox.
Thank you. And how does this get decided? Is this just something that essentially it's the mayor's discretionary fund? So
Yep.
then you can kind of look at things. Okay.
Right.
Very
So give money to project graduation. Yeah, those kinds of things that trying to keep broad community support.
Yeah, right.
And right now, besides the fireworks, trying to find, I know there are a number of our community members that are feeling the pennies being pinched. And so wanted to be able to do that, and specifically through the Challenge for Charities. So these can then get additional funds matched to them. So trying to leverage that. So, yep. Councilmember Cassidy.
Can somebody catch me up on the history of the discretionary funds? When they were created? Why?
Rochelle's nodding at me.
You're it.
When Ann Even was hired, we had a community development fund. And we were buying things like Kiwanis gun boots and brands tables, chamber memberships, those kinds of things out of that. And then the mayor had some preferences where the money would go. And at the time, that was Mayor Richardson, over and above what Ann had in her budget for dealing with partnerships. And so that's how this got started. Mayor Richardson used it for 2 years. Mayor White got the advantage of a few months of it last year, and then this is your first year for expenditures on this. So that's how it was started.
And the total budgeted amount for the year is how much?
I think it's actually 10.
It's
Yeah,
10.
I think it was originally 15,000 for Monty's first year.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, Mayor Richardson's, and then it went down. Yeah.
Is this all that's remaining of it? This will
Correct.
spend it all.
Correct.
Correct, because there's been money where she's approved in the past that went to like project graduation, that went to other community things that the mayor, they come and say, we have this need in the community, would you like to donate? Or is the city interested? And the mayor has conversations, so yeah. This I think closes out
Got it.
this,
Correct.
the budget for this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Can we call for the question? Starting with you, Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
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 Great, and that passes. Item G, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the FY 2025-2026 City Audit Engagement Letter with Summit West CPA Group. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Stubble. Sorry about the pause on the reading, but it will be taking place largely in FY 27, but it is auditing the FY 25 to 26 books. So Christy, anything you want to add on this? You spoke to it a little bit earlier.
You know, I don't have a lot to add. I did want to point out just that if you look at page 34, it does at the top state that by signing this agreement, they're estimating it to be between $69,000 and $76,000 in cost and expense. They also, if they run over, they should be able to notify us and get that to us so that I can get that information back to you if for some reason it runs over their estimate. I think he put a little extra in there for, it is my first year going fiscal year end, going through that with him. So there might be some things that will be delayed in timing, but that shouldn't be extra expense, is kind of, you know, some of the conversations that we had. So.
Okay, so you're clarifying that your time will not add to expense, but if there is expenses that are above and beyond this, it will come before us for approval before that.
Summit says that well, if you read on page 34, it just says that they will try to get that information to as quickly as possible. I didn't know if we want to, I mean, it's kind of too late to do that now, but we could put something to them that tells them they do need to give any heads up on that, anything over that estimate amount, to get that to us so that we can get that through council for approval. We can do that.
I think that's reasonable since we're agreeing on a contracted amount. We don't want to be surprised by something above and beyond.
Sure.
So-
And I just wanted to point that out because I think a lot of times people just get surprised. I think we had a conversation by how much accountants cost and they are expensive. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was something that you guys recognized by approving that. But really, we don't really have a lot of options because we are a city that has to be audited every year. So if we don't go with them, we would need to, that would probably not work out well. So, because it's probably too late to get anybody else. So we're kind of stuck.
Yeah. Adam, since you're our legal counsel here, can we have a not to exceed clause or some kind of language that states if they anticipate going up above and beyond, we need to be notified?
We can put whatever we want to in there. I mean, they're the ones who drafted this engagement agreement and said, this is what we're going to do. We can send something back saying, well, we want to do this. And if they don't want to do it, then they can dump us. I can say this, though, that they probably are going to be our cheapest option because a few years ago we did put it out for bid and they were by far our best option. And they're local, which is always nice. But we can certainly put in there whatever we want. I would recommend we do that in the future before we get it on here for voting. But in the past, we have talked to them about a not to exceed without like a change order provision type of thing, because there was a year where they exceeded those costs pretty substantially.
Yeah.
And so that would be something we would need to talk to them about in the future. Or if you don't want to approve it tonight, which I don't know what the ramifications of that would be, to be able to negotiate with them on the language, we could do that too.
Okay. Councilmember Han.
So we've used this company previous,
Correct.
Quite a few
They've been our
times.
sole auditor for years.
so
Yeah.
why don't we switch it up and use somebody different once in a while?
They were the lowest bidder.
So,
Right.
is that how we work? We do the lowest bidder, or is that? Because I understand, like, when we buy parts, we have to do like 3 different things and we get the
Sure.
lowest bidder, but it seems kind of weird that you have the same person doing the audit every year.
You guys can do what you want. You're the council. So it was voted on by the council at that time to take
Okay.
the lowest bidder.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could add some additional background to that. The city staff used to put these agreements out, just like with insurance, every 3 years, and we would try and get bids every 3 years. Because they were getting harder and harder to get, and we were not getting responses, we went to a 5-year contract. And the 5-year contract just stipulates that we'll have a letter of engagement every single year. So that's how we got to where we're at. The last time we did it, we only got 2 bids, and again, like Adam said, Summit was significantly less. With taxpayer dollars, we're required to go with the lowest bidder, responsible
Yeah.
bidder.
Other comments, questions? Do folks want to add some kind of not to exceed or note that there needs to be a notice before exceeding that bill? If
And
so, I need an.
Madam Mayor, I don't think we can change, this is their
Yeah, okay.
engagement agreement that
Okay.
they sent to us.
Got
And
it.
so we would have to negotiate with them.
With
So if
them.
you're going to do that, then we'll need to table this so we can talk to them to see if we could amend it with them.
Okay.
And I
So-
will say, it does say in there that we will notify you immediately of any circumstances we encounter that could significantly affect the initial the initial estimate that they're giving us. So I think they're going to work on communicating that to us. I think that it would just be if, something is more tedious for them to go through and they're spending an enormous amount of more time, but that just goes into meeting with them, having good outlines for prep time and getting that stuff put together. The other thing we could do too is we could have Shari, who's worked on audit. If I do get behind, instead of paying them what we would pay them, I could have Shari come in and help with some of those audit paperwork as well. So there's options that we have. If we get to that point, I can certainly say, hey, these are our options. What do you guys
Okay.
want to do? So.
Yeah. Council, how does that sit with you? Councilmember Stubble.
Mayor, that seems like a fine way for us to manage this, given that we don't have, major histories or patterns here of having problems with the situation. So thank you for that. And Mayor, while I have the mic on, I'll just say that it is election season and it is very common, as it should be, for people to call, candidates to call for, hey, we should get an audit of the city. We do get audits of the city. It's every year, posted online to be read. So PSA to the voters, I think that even when you hear that, you can see which candidates are doing homework and researching what actually happens within City Hall, because we also agree we should be audited every year, and we do spend quite a bit of money making sure that our books are clean. So thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, our audits are available online back to 2014, in fact. So, okay, any other discussion? Okay, call for the question. Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes. And with that, we will adjourn our work session, but only after motion and a second and a vote.
Mayor, so moved.
Excuse me, our business meeting.
Second.
Yeah, our regular meeting. So moved by Councilmember Stubble, seconded by Councilmember Cox. We'll call for the question. Councilmember Han.
Yes.
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 That passes, and we will shift into the work session. Yep. All right, so the work session. Thank you, Rochelle, for getting us this info and our little overview. So what we have up is just the one item. A, discussion concerning the first 30 pages of the proposed new City of Lander employee manual. So, Rochelle, if you can give a little overview about what you and I discussed about our comparison chart and why we didn't do the red line, I think that would be helpful for folks. And then we can go into questions.
The last major policy revision for the city employees was in 2019. So similar to what Chief Waugh had going on with the police department one, there's significant enough changes that a red line version would be difficult to follow. So although many of the topics remain the same, the language may be more explanatory, more in-depth, updated to reflect changes in federal law, because Wyoming, for the most part, follows federal law when it comes to employment issues. So that's kind of why you don't see a red line version, but I tried to do my best to provide a little bit of guidance in terms of things that you might see different in the current version and the new proposed version. Now, this is very much a living document. I fully expect feedback and direction from the policymakers on what you would like to see in there. The first 30 pages are hopefully fairly straightforward. A lot of it deals with pretty much federal law type things, such as, American with Disabilities Act, workplace harassment. Those are all pretty much covered by federal law, equal employment opportunity, reasonable accommodations and what happens. Trying to set that forth so that our employees, if they do have that issue, they know what to do and where to go, because that was just silent. And sometimes I would have employees kind of not know what to do. So we wanted to give them a little bit of direction, like, hey, if you think that this is you, come talk to me. The one thing I did want to bring to your attention, though, is on page 16 about the flex time, because the city currently does not allow any sort of comp time for exempt or non-exempt employees. It does say that exempt employees have a little bit more flexibility in their work schedules, and that's because we don't get overtime. So no one cares if we work however many hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, whatever in a week. And it talks about flexing within the calendar year for non-exempt employees. And I meant to change that. That's incorrect. It would be flexing within the pay period for non-exempt employees. And employees that do get overtime, the ones that are non-exempt, I'm mixing up those terms, I'm sorry. The non-exempt employees, they're allowed to flex within our designated work week, except for law enforcement, because we use the longer period of time for them, because they're first responders and they're just different. They have those 24-hour shifts. So they're allowed to flex within that whole period. Have I confused everybody? Because that was apparently my goal. Questions on that piece?
Mayor, I think the one piece I pulled out there, I would thank you much of it, is that, so page 16, paragraph 3, exempt employees may flex or float their time, including holidays within the calendar year. That's actually meant to be within the
pay period.
Period. Thank you.
Right. And I would even take out including holidays, just flex within the pay period is what it was what the intention was.
That sounds like a better change.
Okay, so exempt employees may flex or float their time within the pay period given prior authorization.
Right, as long as that's approved.
I also heard you say that police are first responders, so they're very different. And I wonder if that's actually compliant as an HR director with our personnel policy to call some employees different.
They're unique.
I was wondering if you picked up on that or not.
She is not wrong.
They fall under different rules.
There you go.
There you go.
Very, very clean objective. Okay, so with that, I know though we're trying to do smaller chunks of this, it still came in over Friday. So do folks have had, I'm hoping you've had the time to read, and if you've got questions, can we ask them now of Rochelle?
If I can comment real quick, primarily what we were trying to do is capture what the federal laws say to be able to make them more clear, like Rochelle said.
Yep.
Previous to this, there were some unwritten rules, for lack of a better term, where people didn't really know or had a lot of questions. And being able to update this with the most recent laws under federal law for employment makes it very clear for employees and a much better policy manual for them to be able to understand what their rights are.
Also, there's just some things that when I started with the city, it's like, well, why do we do that? And where is that located? And it was maybe just historical. So trying to document some of the things that the city has traditionally done in the employment world for a long time, and put it in writing so that everyone knows what the rules are. And we'll see that not necessarily in this 30 pages, but as time goes by, for example, with the police department and who's on, when there's on shift and there's a holiday and some things like that, just to bring some clarification to that world.
Yeah, this part is probably the most straightforward in terms of the changes made, So are there any parts of this that bringing up questions for folks?
Mayor, if I may?
Okay, please.
Thank you. I'm curious about, and tell me if I'm like missing it in here too, but we do have a classification, for lack of a better word, of some employees who are appointed by the mayor. And that goes often through a competitive hiring process, like all this still applies. Attorney Phillips, check me at any point here, but as I understand it, so, the mayor will make appointments for some of our leadership. Those employees are then regular employees, right, with all this applying, including if they were to be terminated in the middle of that appointment. But at the time of a new mayor, right, appointment can be made by a new mayor. So do we need to specify that? I don't know if that's actually very clear. Maybe it is to employees, especially those who are appointed, probably very clear, but for members of the public, clearly in my like very crappy explanation of that, I don't even have it down straight. So that's directed by statute. Would it benefit us to spelling that out here about some classifications of employees who are subject to that?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because it is outlined in statute. It'd probably be a little bit of overkill. And there are certain protections that they have as being an appointed, in an appointed position, but also for being an employee of the city.
And on I guess it's the first page under about this manual disclaimer. I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph. The very last line does say appointed personnel employment and employment related activities shall be in accordance with the Wyoming statute 15.3.204.
Sorry, can you give me a page number on that one again, please?
It's the very first page after the cover page.
So page 6, introduction?
No,
Okay.
right
Oh,
after
I'm
the
sorry,
title
not
page
text.
about this
Got it.
manual.
Got it. Sorry, very basic here.
So it is referenced.
At least it's referenced there. Okay, great. I was
Yeah.
looking in the text of the actual policy manual.
Fifth paragraph.
There, if you're, thanks
Yeah.
for your indulgence. I mean, I think it's debatable, so perhaps I'll turn to council. I hear you on overkill. I feel like details sometimes do actually help with a greater understanding here, so I'd be curious
Yeah.
how that
And
lands
then-
with the rest of us too.
At least in the two kind of positions being filled, it was noted in the interview, and I believe that was also reiterated in the offer letter as well, Rochelle, is that correct? That they are appointed positions with all that goes with it. The good,
I
the
can't
bad, the
remember off the top of my head if the offer letter covered that, but recently in
is-
the advertisements for both the treasurer and the chief of police, that was part of the advertisement.
And then noted with each candidate as well.
Great.
Understanding
So,
that.
so Mayor, that assuages my concern that like those candidates and those eventual employees understand that situation. I think I'm looking at a different audience, right? Members of the public, understanding how some of our employment,
Right.
categories or classifications, tell me HR here, what word to use, of who is actually appointed and what that means.
Are you trying to say they're different?
Or the length of appointment? You use the word, not me.
Yeah.
So
I
I would build on this, and if we at least mention the statute appointed personnel employment, on, or about the manual, then maybe we should define and explain that later in the manual. too. Sorry about the feedback. Is that?
Yeah, I
really
don't know
everybody
why,
else?
why we've got that going on.
So Mayor,
Councilmember-
if I may, we could also reference our own Title 12 because that is where the exact titles of those positions as appointed positions are listed.
If you would like, Councilmember Stubble, I can draft some type of language from what I'm hearing you say you might like to see, and we can include that under classifications. I could draft it for council's review for the next time we revisit the next 30 pages.
I like that.
Yeah.
Cognizant of being a solo council member here, so look to my
Oh,
fellow,
I mean,
to weigh in.
Yeah, I get that from the standpoint of what we learned in the Title II, how many of our established license holders were unfamiliar with their existing obligations in state statute, that they needed to comply with, what our latitude was in managing license holders. So I can see the benefit of that. Again, it's somehow calling out these particular these are the appointed positions subject to Wyoming statute 153204. Can be, yeah.
May I just address, because in here it talks about at will. I mean, this sort of covers it. Is that
Correct?
Not for appointed
not-
positions.
Yeah.
not even at all? I mean,
Appointed positions are different because they're appointed and they are for cause. Once they become appointed,
okay,
then
so
that's
it's
for
more of a
cause.
contractual situation, even though it's not a contract. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
You have
That
to have
does need
specific
to be,
reasons.
there needs to be more language around it then, definitely.
I'm hesitant to put that on because I think I'm the feedback. But I'd love to see the language. And then we can perhaps, once we have it in front of us, debate if we want to include it or not. Or if it is spelled out closely enough in our code, perhaps let's debate it and see it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Clerk Fontaine.
Any other questions on this section of material? Okay, well, that's what easiest work session we've had in a long, long time. Yeah.
Partly because it's a really well done document.
Yep, agreed.
Easy to read.
A
Yeah.
lot of folks have put a lot of time in on it. Great way to pass time on an airplane, I found out, making comments on that. So, okay, with that,
Mayor, may I do one clarifying? So we had 30 pages, agreed, very awesome, easy to read, great table. Are we expecting one more chunk or two more chunks? What are we looking at here?
two more, given.
Two more.
The rest of it's going to be a little bit more tedious. You might want to read it to help you go to sleep at night.
We'll say
Um,
detailed
but it is
instead of tedious. Thank you.
Detailed. It's unique. But I would suggest you probably do want to break it up into two because I
Yeah.
think there could be a lot more
They're
discussion
quickly
with the
here.
other two portions.
Or even smaller chunks if the council would like. It looks like disciplinary action and grievance will be in the next section for sure, but that might take some more thought or, So if you think that 30 pages might be too much and you want to reduce it to 20 because it might encourage deeper debate or thought, I'm fine with that. Just tell me what to do. We'll start with 30, and if it's too
Yeah.
much, we'll chunk it down.
You send it, I'll read it. So I don't have a preference there.
We'll start with 30, and if it's too much, we'll reduce it.
I mean, if we went through grievance and the remainder of section 3, that takes us to page 51. And that seems like a good chunk. So, or potentially, there's not a lot for the leaves of absences. That adds another handful of pages. But that seems like either of those would be a nice break point. Okay. Okay. With that, council, our next meeting's July 14th. Have a wonderful and safe 4th. And happy 250th. Hope to see you on the 8th as well for the declaration. All right. Thanks, audience members, for being here.
They did public comment at the start. Okay. We should get me started. Yeah. I was like.